Hi everybody, thank you for clicking on this video and I'm really glad you're interested in finding out more about studying the modern and medieval languages Tripos here at Cambridge and maybe specifically here in St John's College. Because modern and medieval languages is quite a mouthful, most people refer to this course as MML, which is what I'll do from here on. And you know, if you hear people talking about MML, that's what it is. So my name's Georgina Evans. I'm the Director of Studies for the Modern and Medieval Languages students when they're arriving in their first and second year. I also specialise in French and film. So if you're studying options within that, I might be teaching you, but if you're coming as a modern and medieval languages student, I would be your director of studies, which would mean I would be having meetings with you, giving you advice and support on how things are going, things that you might be finding more difficult, but also kind of how to maximize the things that you're really enjoying as you go through the course. So that would be regardless of what languages you're doing. We treat you all as a group so that we are a community, even if you're doing different language combinations. So what is MML? It's a course where in Cambridge we ask you to study 2 languages alongside each other, and in your first year they're equally weighted. As you go through the course, you might find that your interests are going more towards one of the other, and you have a lot of scope for directing the structure of your own course according to where your interests are going. But in the first year, we ask you to do the 2 in a balance. Which languages can you take? So the languages that you would be applying for, there are 6: French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, German, and Russian. So you would be applying for 2 of those. One of them has to be a language that you're studying at A-level or equivalent. We need you to already be studying one of them. The other one can be something you're studying already, if you're doing more than one language at this stage, or it can be something that you do ab initio, which just means from scratch. So sometimes people have a GCSE in their history, or they've had some contact with the language. Other people have never ever done any formal study of their ab initio language, but they've done a bit of research, or you know, maybe something sparked your interest about countries where that language is spoken. And so people come from all different directions into pursuing an ab initio language. As you go through the course, as I've already said, you can direct your interests more to one side or the other. So sometimes we find our students keep up both their languages throughout. Sometimes in the final year, people choose to specialise in one or the other. So you've got quite a lot of flexibility in where you go after coming in with these 2 languages. That also relates, of course, to the year abroad, which is a compulsory part of our course. Cambridge gives you quite a lot of freedom in what you do with your year abroad, which does mean that the planning is something that puts the onus on the student to think about what you want out of that year and how you want to spend the time. So if you want to spend your year abroad focusing on one language, you can do that. If you want to split it between the 2, you can also do that. And you've also got some flexibility in whether you study or work or combine those things. So there are a lot of exchange agreements that we have with other universities, not just in Europe, but also in Latin America and other places. And all of those options are presented to you through the faculty. So that's something that is organised, that you get support and advice with, but also the freedom to make some decisions about what interests you. Sometimes people choose to do jobs which fuel, or kind of help them work towards their future career aspirations. So that can also work out really well. so that when you graduate, you've maybe got some really relevant experience in your year abroad of working in the kind of area that you're hoping to go into in your future. Thinking about how people graduate, like where they go next, I think one thing to think about is that there's a tremendous diversity within this course. So all that our students have in common really when they arrive is that they're interested in studying languages seriously, and they have studied at least one at A level. They might have done vastly different subjects at A level or equivalent. We've had people who've done lots of languages, absolutely, but we've also had people who've done one language, English and history, or even like one language and some sciences. Quite a lot of our students have done maths even. So you're absolutely not all the same when you arrive. We don't have a kind of expectation that you will have come from the same kind of set of interests necessarily, and that's one of the things that makes our classes really interesting. Within the course, you study quite a range of skills. So on the language side, we definitely need you to be people who are happy to spend time studying grammar and looking closely at the way your language works and doing that kind of day-to-day work that's really essential if you're going to get to a high level. We also do a lot of translation work into and out of English, and we use texts which are from quite a range of different periods and sometimes quite different kind of genre. So we think a lot about translation as a discipline and a practice. Of course, we also do oral work in small groups where you get to speak the language with native speakers. And we also have, alongside that, a whole range of papers that you study that we call scheduled papers. These really mean any papers which aren't the direct language work that I've just summarised. So a lot of those are kind of cultural in nature. They might involve literature, film, kind of more historical approaches. We have linguistics papers if you're interested in looking at the structure, organisation, and history of languages and themselves. And we've also got a whole set of optional papers where you can study other languages apart from the two that you've been admitted to study as kind of self-contained one-off courses. So those include Catalan, modern Greek, Ukrainian, Polish, and what? Yeah, I may have forgotten one. Those are courses that you can do kind of alongside your two main languages. So that's something that a lot of our students find very appealing, the chance to try something else as well. When people graduate, I've actually never known two students who graduate like with the exact same profile in terms of the courses they've studied in their final year. The further you go through the course, the more choices you have. So by the end, you really get the chance to kind of to grow into yourself without having had to, set your path absolutely from the beginning. So some of our students graduate with perhaps they've got a very energetic interest in studying film, and most of what they do in their final year and their dissertation, if they choose to write one, might all be in that area. Or you might be very interested in post-colonial studies and looking at texts or art that reflect those kinds of interest. Or you might be somebody who's sort of put all your interest in the linguistics side, but have also maintained your language learning. So MML is the right course for you, maybe, rather than linguistics. So yeah, people graduate with very different profiles, and I think that then leads them on into very different career areas. We've got students doing all sorts of things, journalism, obviously things like teaching, consulting, people who've gone on to do law, law conversions, but then are using their languages in the work they're doing, people who are interpreting or translating professionally, and all sorts of other things. We've got a really diverse alumni community, and those people, also people who are working in various areas of government and the civil service. So you can go in all sorts of directions, and the fact that you've done the year abroad and had these various chances to make your own path, or often make it, you know, a real pleasure to write references for our students as they're going on to their next stages. Who should be interested in studying MML? I think anybody who's doing a language A-level at the moment should really look seriously at this course and think about whether it could be a good fit for you, and whether you feel like it's a place where you might be able to grow and bring in all the things that you love with your languages as a part of it. So obviously people who are studying lots of languages at school at the moment are people who might naturally look at this. But if you're studying one language, then, and you're perhaps thinking broadly about other kind of arts and humanities options, have a look at MML, or find out more, or drop us a line, and we'll be really happy to explain how this course might work for you. Because if what you want to do, for example, is study literature, if you think, well, I love my languages, but I'm also really interested in literature, there are a huge number of literary options within our course, and actually literature is compulsory in the first year. So you can expand your horizons and of course work on translation and think about how literary translation, you know, the limitations of it and the possibilities of it. If you're interested in history, then you should also look at the course in history and modern languages, where you combine one of the MML languages with history. And so go and watch the history video if you're thinking about that. But there's also a historical aspect to a lot of what we do in MML. If we're looking at a 17th century French text, you will see how the spelling has changed over time. And of course, you need to look at the context in which any text was produced to understand it. Also, I mean, as I've said, we also have like a lot of opportunity to study art and film. And our courses, some of them, so in the first year literature courses, we don't expect you to have done this stuff before. We don't expect people to have done medieval languages before. This is something I'm asked quite a lot when we get to do open days and, you know, chat in person more. The course is called Modern and Medieval Languages. We don't expect you to have done medieval language before. And it's something that we ask everyone to try, looking at medieval texts. Some people then find that it becomes the thing they absolutely love doing. Other people want to keep their keep a mix in what they study, and for other people their interests lie elsewhere. So don't worry about, you know, what might be kind of locked up in that word in the title of the course. Thanks so much for listening. We really love to explain to people what you can do within our course and try and help you work out whether it's going to suit you. Keep an open mind when you're exploring your options at this stage, because so much is wide open to you, and try not to rule yourself out because of something that you know, you feel unclear about or unsure about, because we'll be really happy to help you with that. I really hope, you know, that you're interested in studying MML. You should also, if you're interested in studying languages, I have already mentioned the History and Modern Languages course. Other things that you can look at would include the AIMS Tripos, where you can actually combine Arabic with one of the MML languages if you've got one of those at A level. So have a look at that if you if that's an interest, a combination that might interest you. And of course, if you're also you might be interested in looking at classics or ASNAC, but we also have students in our MML Tripos who are combining one of our languages with Latin. So thanks for listening. Do be in touch with us if you've got any questions, and I wish you all the best as you're going through your school studies this year. I think that's